Welcome. So then we can proceed. Next, we have Baptiste Coulon from the SAPA Foundation, and they will talk about the Swiss Performing Arts platform, example of linked open data deployment by a small institution without IT department. And I guess there might be a lot of smaller institutions in the audience who will be very happy to hear about what you have to say, or what challenges you are facing. So yeah, you can share your screen of your slides, and then
Yes.
go ahead. Thank you.
And then oh. I don't succeed to be more bright. It's okay like this or not? Oh, sorry.
Looks good to me.
Okay, perfect. Also, I can start. It's okay. Welcome and thank you to be there. We are glad to share our experiences in a small project of IT. We have both to make this presentation, but Thomas is not quite arrived, but it's not a problem because I take the first part and perhaps I do also the second one.
I'm here this time. Yeah, hello.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. I began with organizational point of view, and then Thomas will present a technical point of view. In my organizational point of view, I just present our foundation. We are a knowledge center, but also an archival and documentation center. Our focus are the performing arts in Switzerland. Also, we collect information, but also object document. For my part, I am an archivist, and I am in charge of the maintain of the infrastructures, models, data linked to the collection. And I am also in charge of open access to the collection. In our Lincoln Data project, we adopt a data-centric approach in the scope to fairness and to LOD. This allows us an independence from software, but also an independence from teams. We want to have a complete control on our data as a guarantee of sustainability. Data is one of the most valuable assets of an heritage institution in our point of view. Also, we build a semantic knowledge graph. All entities were identified through a RIC-O, we structure it in RDF and manage and publish natively in RDF through a web platform. Documentation in SHACL, documentation also of ontology extension, data available under CC0 licenses, a SPARQL endpoint for the public, and also another website to present our controlled vocabularies. In our data-centric approach, we have also an authority data-centric approach. Also, in our point of view, the authority are in the center of our data. Every object of the collection is connected to an authority. Authorities are also the main point of access for general public human or machine. The authority are also what we have in common with others institution. And what's its particularity of our foundation is we have the task to maintain this register of authorities for Switzerland. We have classical authorities as person, legal body, or place, but we have also specific authorities as venue, fictional character, production of performing arts, and recording from this performing arts. Wikidata is our first external register. Also, we have a Wikidata-centric approach. All our authorities are systematically matching with Wikidata, and the value are input in our data. We also put information in Wikidata through two dedicated properties. One is a general SPAP ID, and the other one is for our vocabulary. And we use also non-specific properties. Our web platform is named Swiss Performing Art Platform. It's a multilingual portal and linking data. This portal is powered by an open source tools from MetaFact. Use BlazeGraph. The manage of the software is by Sari from Zurich University, but the data curation and the documentation is by Sparna, who Thomas will explain you. Some metrics about our platform. It's a middle-sized repository with two groups of entities, with two groups with the same size. One is the authority, and the other one is the collection. I gave you some example from layout of our platform. In this layout, I present a file with many documents, and one document is displayed here. It's an image. In this layout, there is a link to a subject, but there is also a link to an instantiation from this file. I go to the subject. The subject of this file is a production of performing art. In this layout from production, we see the production himself, but in center, you can see also a series of performances and also one evening date from performance. There is also link to the collection and to Wikidata. Through the person list, you see just one of them are in color, which we have described in our database. This one was described with some information, but with the matching in Wikidata and also the link to the Swiss Theater Dictionary. Our layout you will find many tabs, and one of these tabs is statement. It's open to the public, and the public had an easy access to all our statements, property, and class used in the items. Is my last slide. I will present just a review and say that data sharing is a big challenge in the way of working for the teams. The first RDF modeling was not so difficult, and it's relatively easy to apply the change in the graph in itself. But software needs to be aligned with those changes. Every change requires the modification of input form, layout, advanced search, Improvement of data quality is the main benefits of the project, and the easy way to build a new application based on the data is a very good surprise of the project. The only big problem for us until now is the UI and the slowness of displaying data in layout and the difficulty for human user to navigate through the resources. And I gave the word to Thomas.
Hello, thank you, Baptiste. I will give you the technical point of view of working with such a linked data-based platform. You can go to the next slide, Baptiste, please. So I'm Thomas Francart from Sparna. We have a very specialized knowledge graph consulting company in France, and we're working with cultural heritage institutions, medical terminologies, archives such as SAPA, but also the Archives nationales de France, legislate in the legislative area with the European Parliament or official journal, and also international organizations like the ISSN, WTO, or UNESCO. We do ontology modeling in OL and SHACL, RDF data migration, RDF data dissemination, data quality checking, alignments of vocabulary, data analytics, and so on. We develop a few open source tools, the Sparna Query Builder, Sparna Form, which we will show here, SCOS Play, and SHACL Play. So that's for us. So when it comes to working with the SAPA Foundation, if you go to the next slide, Baptiste, please. What it means, it can mean different kind of things and different kind of action. We do data import, data cleaning in the platform itself, data modeling and documentation, data dissemination, and data search user interfaces. And we will go through each of them. Before going into the explanation of what it takes to do those 5 kind of action, a brief explanation on how the platform manages name graphs, because this is specific and adds an extra layer of complexity. The platform itself, so the software, relies on name graphs for its forms and layout. Name graphs are a way to partition the large knowledge graph into small chunks. And here, one form equal one chunk equal one graph. So we will have a lot of little name graph, each corresponding to the data around one entity. And each operation on the data, be it the import of new data, the cleaning, or the transformation, must retain this name graph information in order for the forms and layout in the software to continue working properly. And this is adding a significant complexity to manage when doing all those operations on the data. Now we can see what an example of data import, if you go to the next slide. So a typical type of operation on the knowledge graph is to import new data, new entities in the graph, like import new records in the collection, or new information on existing entities, like import new identifiers in productions to replace the legacy identifier. The typical situation is that we start from a spreadsheet that needs to be converted to RDF with name graph information retained and then imported. 2 strategies are used so far. Python scripts using the RDFlib library, or lately we tried SPARQL Anything, which is a new approach to query the spreadsheet itself with SPARQL. And then since we can query in SPARQL, we can join with the remote data using the service keyword. So we have a unified view on both the local spreadsheet plus the remote data, and we can join both together and create an RDF file to then be imported into the platform. We can go to the next one, which is about data cleaning. So data cleaning is about deleting wrong or outdated records or entities, or sometimes values. And this is typically useful when making evolutions in the data model, since the data model is a little bit evolving sometimes. This requires transformation on the data itself. For example, the model right now relies on the SIDOC theorem v5 for part of it, but also it relies also on the records in Contexts Ontology, but part of it relies on the SIDOC theorem containing classes that have now been removed in the v7, like place name, contact point. They are now replaced by a unique appellation class, so this would require migration of the data and changing the configuration of the forms and display layout, as Baptiste pointed out. The next kind of action that we are taking is that we document the data model or the data models in plural as the cornerstone of data management. It's not because we have a flexible graph structure in the data without any predefined model that it implies that we should not have no model at all. And in fact, it is critical to master the data model of the graph that we have. Otherwise, we're working with just a graph and not a semantic knowledge graph. And we want to do semantic here. So we want to understand and track the choices that have been made in the semantics modeling. We want to be able to make changes in this model. We want to be able to publish the documentation of this model to be interoperable at larger scale, so because we're targeting semantic interoperability with other cultural heritage institutions. The way we approach it at SAPA is to split the data model into 4 parts. The description of the collection, the heritage collection of SAPA, which corresponds to the record resource RiC-O entity. The description of the instantiation, the items materiality, the image, video, and audio. The description of the performances, the productions, performances, and the authorities, persons, organization, venues, and places. So each of those 4 parts is formally described and specified in SHACL, the Shapes Constraints language, from which documentation, the public documentation of the model is then being generated, and you can access it on shapes.performingarts.ch. And that documentation is generated with the SHACL Play open source tool. Here's an example of the generated documentation. In this documentation, you will find automatically generated diagrams, such as this one showing the structure of what a record set looks like in the model with its attributes and links to the other type of objects in the graph. And then you will find the second piece of information, which is in the next slide, which is the table of properties in the same entity. So we see a table very much looking like the schema.org documentation, where we see the list of properties and cardinalities and description of what is expected to be found in this property. So this will enhance users, data reusers, to understand the content of the graph and make good use of it. On the data dissemination side, the nice thing, as Baptiste pointed out, is that since we rely on interoperable data, it makes it very easy to publish the data using a dissemination technique, repurpose it into datasets, or build UI relying on the custom service. I will quickly give 3 examples of data dissemination. A website to publish source control vocabularies, a website to publish a particular archive I found, the Theater Lexikon der Schweiz, and a search interface based on SPARKLE. The first one is a website that was built to disseminate the source control vocabulary used at SAPA. It's a simple static website generated from source. It's 48 vocabularies, and it's generated from a plain JSON export, restructured in JSON using JSON LD framing, and then using a static JSON-based website generation. And it generates a very lightweight and easy to read and customizable website to disseminate and browse those control vocabularies. The second example is pretty similar, but with a specific resource in the collection, which is the Theater Lexikon der Schweiz. Here again, it's a static website published in its own domain, tls-performingarts.ch, where we can browse the font in alphabetical index and access the download dump. And I'm quickly finishing with the third example, which is a search interface, a facet-like search interface based on an open source component and directly plugged to the SPARKLE endpoint, entirely client-side, so very easy to deploy. And here we see the power of decoupling the data from the search interface, which can be redeveloped and redesigned specifically. And just to finish, we can see the screenshot of what it looks like, where we have the search criteria on the left, and we select the type of entity we want to search. This is based on an underlying and parameterized SPARQL query. The user will simply select or enter the search criteria on the left. The SPARQL query will then be executed, and the UI will display a nice user-oriented table. And as you can see, you don't see any URI in there. They're all hidden behind human-readable labels, and the data can be downloaded for further reused in a tabular format. And the very last slide shows the corresponding underlying SPARQL query. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, you both. And my bad, sorry, Thomas, that I didn't introduce you before. I didn't know you were joining as well. Yes, there are some questions actually for you both. The first one is, do you monitor the data in Wikidata? If so, could you share any details of what tools, approaches you use to monitor the data you have contributed to Wikidata?
It's a question for me.
I guess.
Yeah. The question is to show an example, or
Not necessarily. Maybe I
okay.
can also help, because I know you're part of the Wiki project Performing Arts in Wikidata. And
Yeah.
there are some SPARQL queries I know that kind of track a bit how much performing arts data is added to Wikidata. So I don't know if you monitor especially your data from SAPA coming in to this project.
Until now, we don't make any such a way, yes, in this direction. We are in a phase to put information and not already to take information from Wikidata. We take the images from Wiki Commons through Wikidata, but it's the only thing. But this is scope in the future. Sure.
Good. And then we have another question about what the sources of your data are. How are you getting the data from the various theaters? I guess this is a question for you as an archivist. Do they send you spreadsheets, or do you pull from their websites? Oh, I can tell this is not the case.
Yeah, we are a very classical documentation center. Also, we manually do a lot of works, but we have we have the scope to make all this workflow more automatically. And we are in relation with the institution from Theater to have the data, because they're manually already input in our software this data, and we want to have, and also we have in search of collaboration between institution of theater and our archival.
Okay. One more question from me then, although we are almost running out of time. I was wondering about RiC-O, our records in context. Did you have the feeling, because you said you also have some kind of special fields or special authorities for your data, do you feel like you can represent the performing arts information you want to represent with a model, or did you have to like find new fields or new like?
We don't use RiC-O for the performance side of modeling. We use CRM or Freebrew. Also, yeah, the RiC-O is really for our artifacts, but not for the.
And in CRM, you also had the feeling this works for you with representing.
Yeah, we have make extension of RiC-O for some purpose, but I think in future we can find in the other already published ontology all we need.
Okay, great. So in regards to the time, I think we have, we thank you both again for your talk, and we can maybe have a discussion in the forum if we have more questions for you.